Welcome back, warrior. So today we're reading Doctrine and Covenants, section 24, and there's like 19 verses in this one. However, it kind of has a long preface, so I was thinking it would be awesome to kind of give you the background on this, because I think it helps. Okay, so it says, so this is the first church conference. So this revelation was given in July 1830, and a lot had transpired since the organization of the church 4 months earlier. So on June 9th, 1830, they held the first church conference. Today, during General Conference, you might hear something like the 191st General Conference. This conference in June 1830 was the first conference. Right? And that's like so cool. And it was held at the Whitmer home in Fayette, New York. Of course, New York being the awesome place to hold a conference. And about, could you imagine if we like had this conference like in New York? Like that would be so cool. Anyways, something that reminds me, or something that I'm being reminded of in New York that happened was, do you remember the, it was the Christmas special that they did. It was, I don't remember. He is born, I think it was the hashtag maybe, or Light the World. Oh, it was the Light the World something or other. Anyway, where they displayed all kinds of awesome stuff about Jesus Christ's birth and the nativity, and it was all through I'm about to say Temple Square. It's not Temple Square. Times Square. And it was just like the whole place was taken over by just like these beautiful video type images of like Christ and Mary and Joseph and the shepherds and angels. And it was just really cool. You have to go look it up. It's look up Times Square, Church of Jesus Christ, Christmas special. I think it was actually, they did it the day after Thanksgiving maybe, or maybe it was Thanksgiving. I can't remember the days or the things, but go look it up. You'll see it was the coolest thing ever. So I love that New York gets to be part of like our church history, because New York's so cool. Anytime my husband has a job there, I'm like, please take me. I love New York. So anyway, it's just a really cool place. So if you see, okay, so then there were 30 members present. Could you imagine 30 members sitting in like the conference center? Those 30 members, picture those 30 members, or just 30 random people, because we don't know specifically what they look like, right? I mean, maybe pictures, but anyway, think of 30 people sitting in the conference center from the first conference to now. Like, I bet they would just be overcome with emotion of like the sacrifices that they made that brought Christ to each one of us, right? I just love being able to reflect on like how these people might feel to know that they affected me and my testimony and my life because I know Christ because of them. Anyway, it's just awesome. Okay, so if you search the minutes on June 9th, 1830, Joseph Smith, in the Joseph Smith papers, you can read the minutes of the meeting and see the whole manuscript where the minutes were kept by Oliver Cowdery. That's wild that they even have that. And here in the Red Hat Hostess, they have the minutes, and let me show you what it looks like. Also, how do people write so fancy back in the day? Did they have time for that? Like, I don't think they would. Or maybe they rather write than work on the farm. Seriously, I probably would have done that. I would have been like, no, I'm sorry, I'm journaling right now. I can't work on the farm, I'm journaling. That's probably what my excuse would have been. Oh, sorry, I can't make dinner, I'm still journaling. Anyway, so I just think it's super cool. Okay, so then it says, after the first church conference in the Colesville branch, Joseph made a trip to Colesville, New York, which was where Joseph Knight Sr. lived. There were a number of people in Colesville who desired to be baptized. Oh, obviously, by the way, it wasn't in Times Square where they had the conference. Obviously, I know this. Thanks. In case we were trying to correct Linda. No, that's just the place that I like to go. I know that it was more rural and had more farms and stuff like that, and it's not like that there. Because there's all those buildings. But I still love the buildings. I don't know what it is about high-rise buildings. I just love them so much. Because when I'm on a high-rise building, when you look down, you see so many individual people, and it like makes my perspective of my own life less myopic, because I'm not just consumed by my own problems, but I get to think of, holy smokes, look at all those people. They all have their individual problems, and they all have this life that they're living. And anyway, it just helps me see like more big picture things when I am in a high rise. And I think for some reason, whenever I'm in a high rise, it's therapeutic for me. So I don't know. I could just be like super weird, and that's fine too. But that's like what I love about being in a high rise building. It doesn't even have to be so high, because at some point you just can't even see people, and then that's not effective. But like, I don't know, like 11th floor and up, maybe, who knows? I don't know specifically, but I just know that it's super cool, and it helps me with my problems, make them feel smaller and more doable and manageable than when I'm in it, right? Okay, anyway, so yes, they had conference, and it was not at a high-rise building in New York, but it was still in New York. Okay, there were a number of people who in Colesville who desired to be baptized. Joseph Knight Sr. was a well-known man in town. He owned 4 farms and a grits mill, and it was at his farm that the baptisms were to occur on June 27th, 1830. There was a stream on the property, and the day before a dam was built so that enough water would gather to create a pool deep enough for the baptisms to take place. Oh, that's cool. That night, a mob came and broke down the dam. Ugh, the mobs. Why is Satan the worst, trying to make people do bad things? Okay, the dam was repaired, and then on Monday, June 28th, 1830, the baptisms took place. Among those who were baptized, so yeah, you can't slow down. You might be able to slow down, but you cannot keep people from getting baptized, okay? That was your temporary thing, but and I would call that like bruising our heel. You were able to bruise our heel there, Satan, but we're going to crush you because they're getting baptized anyway, So you can slow us down by being super annoying or giving us those things that are weighing us down sometimes and that make us want to quit. But in the end, we're still going to keep going. We're going to keep going, and then we're going to crush you. So among those who were baptized were, these are powerful people, Emma Smith, Joseph Knight Sr., Polly Knight, Joseph Knight Jr., and several more individuals. Joseph Knight Jr. recorded persecution that took place during their baptisms. He wrote, "When we were going from the water, we were met by many of our neighbors, pointing at us and asking if we had been washing sheep." End quote. Ugh. People just like want to be haters, They're just like the worst. Okay, the Joseph Knight incidents of history from 1827 to 1844. History of the Church, 1838. Okay, so recognizing the dangerous situation they were in, the saints retired to the Knights' home, where those who were newly baptized, including Emma, planned to be confirmed members of the Church of Christ and receive the gift of the Holy Ghost. Again, the plans were set aside as a constable trying to protect Joseph from a dangerous mob arrested him. The plan worked. The mob was dispersed, but Joseph was not set free. To the constable's credit, after taking Joseph to the jail, He slept during the night with his feet against the door and a loaded musket by his side to protect Joseph from his enemies. Although Joseph was acquitted of these charges, he was once again arrested, and the second time was not treated quite so kindly. Joseph soon returned to Colesville to confirm the saints, and Newell Knight, the son of Joseph Knight, recorded the following miracle. Okay, awesome. You know, they needed to see all these miracles because they were enduring serious persecution. You know what I mean? For the Lord, right? It's like, I want to get close to you, Jesus, but Bobby Joe Sue is trying to kill me, and they're my neighbor. Like, what? Okay, so it says, quote, on the 29th, Brother Joseph and Hiram Smith and John and David Whitmer came to hold meeting and to confirm those who had been baptized in June previous. As they well knew the hostiles of our enemies in that quarter, and also knowing it was their duty to visit us, they called upon our Heavenly Father in mighty prayer that He would grant them an opportunity of meeting with us, that He would blind the eyes of their enemies that they might not see, and that on this occasion they might return unmolested. Their prayers were not in vain. A little distance from my house, they encountered a large company of men at work upon the public road, among whom were found some of our most bitter enemies, who looked earnestly at the brethren, but not knowing them, the brethren passed on unmolested. End quote. Oh, wow. That's wild. I just love like hearing those miracles, you know. So Lord will protect us. It says He will go before our face and like help, you know. So I just love it. They were like, I'm calling that blessing down for myself. Okay. And then it says in these revelations, it was upon returning home to Harmony that Joseph received the revelations found in sections 24 to 26. At this time, there was much worry surrounding Joseph. He had just been arrested twice for absolutely no reason. He had and was under constant threat of persecution, and so were the new members. Joseph also had a lot of financial worries, which seriously, you know, you got to arrest this man. Like, how's he supposed to pay these debts, right? Watch how the Lord teaches Joseph at this point. Also notice in the section where it states, though less than 4 months had elapsed since the church was organized, persecution had become intense, and the leaders had to seek safety in partial seclusion. The following 3 revelations were given at this time to strengthen, encourage, and instruct them. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so section 24. This is what it says in the little preface beginning. Revelation given to Joseph Smith the prophet and Oliver Cowdery at Harmony, Pennsylvania, July 1830. Though less than 4 months had elapsed since the church was organized, persecution had become intense, and the leaders had to seek safety in partial seclusion. Oh, I just read that. So the following 3 revelations were given at this time to strengthen, encourage, and instruct them. Okay. I didn't realize that was copied there. So here we go. Verse 1. Behold, thou wast called and chosen to write the Book of Mormon, and to my ministry, and I have lifted thee up out of thine afflictions, and have counseled thee that thou hast been delivered from all thine enemies, and thou hast been delivered from the powers of Satan and from darkness. Okay, just like a heads up on this. I feel like this statement is super true from the Lord, but at the same time, I'd be like, wait, what do you mean delivered? I still feel like I'm in like tons of persecution, right? So I wonder if the Lord has a different definition because I'm like, yes, He did deliver him from the powers of Satan and from darkness. So, and He was lifted up out of afflictions. But I guess it's still there. So He didn't say like it's going to go away, I suppose. Verse 2, nevertheless, thou art not excusable in thy transgressions. Nevertheless, go thy way and sin no more. What would have those transgressions been? Probably one of them I would have been like like questioning the Lord, like, which I just did, obviously, about those persecutions. Like, wait, what? You call that deliverance? That's probably what I would have said. Which is so bad, right? Because you're just like, no, I don't I don't consider that deliverance. But if the Lord is considering that deliverance from the powers of Satan and from the enemies, and he doesn't say that he's going to make it go away. He just says that he has, right? So that could also mean that because he has in the past, he can continue and can in the future, right? So there's that. Verse 3, magnify thine office, and after thou hast sowed thy fields and secured them, go speedily unto the church, which is in Cosville, Fayette, and Manchester, and they shall support thee, and I will bless them both spiritually and temporally. But if they receive thee not, I will send upon them a cursing instead of a blessing. And thou shalt continue in calling upon God in my name, and writing the things which shall be given thee by the Comforter, and expounding all scriptures unto the church. And it shall be given thee in the very moment what thou shalt speak and write, and they shall hear it. Or I will send unto them a cursing instead of a blessing. Okay, so when the prophet speaks and we hear it, we're going to be blessed. And if we don't, we get a cursing instead of a blessing. For thou shalt devote all thy service in Zion, and in this thou shalt have strength. So we will have strength as we devote our service to the Lord, to the building up of his kingdom. Be patient in afflictions, for thou shalt have many. Okay, see, this is where he's like, by the way, I did lift you up, but you're still going to have a lot of afflictions. But endure them, for lo, I am with thee, even unto the end of thy days. Oof, that is so hard. Because you just feel like you can't take it anymore, right? And you just wish for Joseph, at least, that he could, enjoy sitting on a rocking chair or something, with his kids and being, awesome. But I just picture this poor guy, running around, trying to avoid getting killed, and who knows how much time he was actually able to spend at home with his family, just chilling, did he ever even take a nap? Sometimes I wonder, I get to come home after church, and talk to my kids about what they learned in their lessons and kind of go over those things, and then I get to take a nice nap, and I just don't picture him ever doing that, and who knows? I'm hoping he did. I'm hoping he took a nap at some point in his life, but he was just always going, and it's just so impressed by that determination for the Lord, and that eagerness to hasten his work, right? And then the second verse 9 says, and in temporal labors thou shalt not have strength, for this is not thy calling. Okay. Attend to thy calling, and thou shalt have wherewith to magnify thine office, and to expound all scriptures, and continue in laying on of the hands and confirming the churches. Oh man. The strength that he must have had to draw from the Savior for this. So I'm reading this book. I can't remember what it is, but I think it's Joseph Smith, the prophet. I think it's what it's called. And it's helping me learn a little bit more about him. And just it just makes me love him even more and appreciate everything he did. Okay, so some redheaded hostess insight here. Although Joseph had been arrested and the members persecuted, the Lord tells Joseph, I have lifted thee up out of thine afflictions. Right? With an exclamation point, he says that he lifted him up from the powers of Satan, right? Okay, and this is this is what I was saying too. He said, delivered with an exclamation point, no less. Yet he was. These members were safe. The Lord was in control, right? The work they were called to perform happened. The church was restored. The members were baptized, and the Lord's plan would not be destroyed, and neither would his prophet. In fact, Joseph was told by the Lord that now was not a time to rest, but to continue the work, right? But like, I would have felt like I would have wanted to rest. So I feel that for him. It says, magnify thine office, Joseph was told. Sow thy fields, continuing calling upon my name, and writing things which shall be given thee by the Comforter. So devoting all thy service to Zion. This was a crucial and critical time for the church. Joseph was not to run faster than he had strength, but he was to run. Right? Oh, that's so true. And sometimes we get different answers for what we need to do. Sometimes there's that talk from Elder Bednar that he shares about a guy who was stuck in the snow and he couldn't get out until he chopped down a tree, put the wood in the back of the truck, and finally was able to get out. And it was the load that helped him get that traction. And so, like, I love that story because it helps us to see that sometimes we do need extra load to get us moving in the direction we want to move. And it doesn't feel good to have an extra load, but sometimes you just need that to like push you through. And so sometimes we're going to need to run, and we're going to think that it's faster than we have strength because we just want to go anyway. Like, that's just like the natural. But at the same time, you want to go when you want, and you want to rest when you want, right? But that's not how it works. It's like we run when the Lord tells us to run, and we rest when the Lord tells us to rest, and not at any other times, right? And so yeah, like, I think it's so important for us to stay close to the Spirit so that we can know when it's time for us to run and keep running, to add a load or to take the load off, right? Like, you don't need an extra load when you're driving in a certain area because it's all smooth. You don't need to get out. But when you get stuck, right, what happens? You need that extra load. When you're stuck, you need that extra load. Okay. And that's what I think sometimes we don't know. Like, sometimes we're in that rut, like we feel stuck, right? Because Satan helps us to feel that way too. And so, because he's distracting us. One of my friends just barely said, I feel meh, and I'm like, that's like, but she says she has a testimony of the gospel. She says she has a testimony of Jesus Christ, but she just says she feels meh. And I was like, well, I'm so glad she described it that way, because I feel like sometimes I have felt that, but I didn't feel like, I don't feel that now. And it makes me want to help her. Right. But like, let's talk about it. Like, what would you say to her? I don't even know. I don't know what I would say to her. And like, I wanted to be like, so tell me about this meh that you feel. Right. And I think when we do feel meh, you don't even know that, like, what to do to get you out. And I think when you say meh, that means you're stuck. And so I think she might need a load. Although she's one of my friends who has a load and like always has a load, and it's so heavy. And so I'm like, I am not about to go tell her, you might need to do more things. You might need to add to your load. Well, like, right? Like, what am I going to say? So anyway, what would you say to her? And then maybe one of those things we can say. Okay. And then verse 8, the Lord tells Joseph that his afflictions were not over because he's going to have many, right? And then President George Q. Cannon says this, and this is who served in the first presidency under Brigham Young, John Taylor, and Wilford Woodruff. And he taught this. So, quote, so it is with all of us. We have great afflictions from time to time. It seems to be necessary that we should be tried and proved to see whether we are full of integrity or not. In this way, we get to know ourselves and our own weaknesses, and the Lord knows us, and our brethren and sisters know us. Therefore, it is a precious gift to have the gift of patience, to be good-tempered, to be cheerful, to not be depressed, to not give way to wrong feelings, and become impatient and irritable. It is a blessed gift for all to possess." End quote. I think he just said that it is a gift to possess. It's a gift to have patience and have a good attitude even when you are in the middle of your afflictions. Okay, this is George Q. Cannon, Gospel Truth, Volume 1, page 98. So Joseph's calling had to be clear. He was to lose himself in the service of the Lord. He knew it. God knew it. And Emma would come to know it as well. Sad. Over and over, the Lord would prove to Joseph and Emma and others that the call of the prophet was not to be wealthy or to sustain material and monetary gain, but rather to lose his life in the service of God, in the service of the Lord, and thereby gain for himself and others eternal salvation. So it's just wild, it's just wild. Okay. Then in Doctrine and Covenants, section 24, verse 10, "And thy brother Oliver shall continue in bearing my name before the world, and also to the church, and he shall not suppose that he can say enough in my cause, and lo, I am with him to the end. In me he shall have glory, and not of himself, whether in weakness or in strength, whether in bonds or free. And at all times and in all places he shall open his mouth and declare my gospel, as with the voice of a trump, both day and night. And I will give unto him strength such as is not known among men." Ooh, and I love this because Oliver has a job and is to declare the gospel with the voice of a trump. Oof. I feel like that applies to each and every one of us. Obviously more Oliver because he was a prophet, or he was an apostle, but still, this applies to each one of us. How are we, declaring the gospel as with the voice of a trump? Like a trumpet is like super loud. And so are we both day and night. So are we declaring it that loud? Are we declaring our testimony? Are we declaring the goodness of Jesus Christ in our lives day and night with as loud as a trumpet? That is a question. Okay, the Lord speaks to Oliver in these two verses. The Lord tells Oliver to continue in bearing his name before the world. This is not a time to hide or take cover, which seems crazy because they're being persecuted. So this is when I would be hiding and taking cover. But he says it's a time to boldly move forward, right? And he is not just to bear the Lord's name to those who believe like he believes, but before the world, meaning even people who don't believe, right? Something that's being brought to mind is the fact that when we are attacked by the adversary, we need to retaliate. And the only way to retaliate is to serve God, because Satan does not like it when we serve God. And that is what King Benjamin taught, right? When we are in the service of our fellow beings, we are in the service of God. And so in order to get back at Satan, we need to be in the service of God. And how do we do that? By being example of the believers, by being Christ-like, by being kind to others, by serving others, helping others. And I think it's hard for us when we are in that betrayal trauma stage. At the beginning, we don't even feel like doing anything. Literally, I couldn't do anything. I was on the floor in my closet. Like, I felt like the imagery here is like I was full armored, okay? But I had just got hit by a truck or something. And I couldn't do anything. And I felt just like flattened, and I'm just like in my closet doing nothing. And I literally couldn't do anything. I laugh to keep from crying because it's serious. Satan has us like that. And then once we kind of pick our pieces back up a little bit, we're getting there, and We literally still have our armor on, but it's been beat up a lot, okay? But now we're scared to go out there because we don't want to get beat up again. And so we feel like we can't go on. So we're just now in our closet with like my shield. I'm in my closet with my shield. And I'm like, I'm staying here. Staying here. I don't get beat up when I'm in the closet, you know? And I did that for so long that I was like, wait a minute. This doesn't feel right. This feels worse. This feels like I'm getting worse. And my my mindset was like not good, or frame of mind, whatever, you know, it was not good. It was very negative, very depressed. Like, yes, several times, like it was either I wanted the pain to stop so bad that I was feeling that I was like, maybe I just need to die. You know, it brings up all of those feelings, all those things that you really don't want, that are not who you really are or who you want to be, against your values. And literally it's all there now, because you're like, well, this is too painful. I can't live like this. So what do I do? And yeah, like I totally can relate to those feelings because I was there. And it's really sad, but we can't get anywhere or make any progress unless we get up and do something. And this is what the Lord is saying. You know, they were in hiding, or they were probably wanting to hide because of their life being literally in danger. But this was not a time to take cover for them. This was when it was time to boldly move forward. And, you know, I don't want to liken necessarily their situation to our betrayal trauma, but at the same time I do, because that's what scriptures are for. So, you know, they were literally going to die if they were out and about, but they still took that sacrifice to move boldly forward, and to continue to testify of Jesus Christ. And that's what we can do. We can boldly move out of our closets and serve our families, serve our friends, serve others, so that we can push through this torture, this trauma that Satan has us under. And then that's when our healing begins. You know, there's this scripture, and I can't remember exactly what it is, but the Lord blesses people on the move. It's usually on the move. It's not staying still, but it's on the move. And that's just like, we got to get up, we got to get in, we got to get moving, and the movement heals us. It's like physical therapy. You know, if you broke your leg, yeah, you get to stay down for a little bit, but then you got to get moving. If you just stay down forever, that leg's never going to heal, and it's going to get worse, right? And you don't get to do anything. So yeah, so many analogies we could draw there, but okay. So then it says Oliver's promise here was never fully realized because he did not fully heed the warning given in the Doctrine and Covenants section 23:1, or the warning here in verse 11. President Gordon B. Hinckley spoke of Oliver, and he taught this. Oh, okay. So he said a trump. Okay, wait. That's how Oliver was supposed to declare the gospel. If he does this, the Lord will give him strength such as is not known to men. So, but that's what we're about to read. So, hold on 1 second. I need to write something down. Okay, so this is what President Hinckley said. Oliver, with Joseph Smith, received the Aaronic priesthood under the hands of John the Baptist, and subsequently the Melchizedek priesthood under the hands of Peter, James, and John. He magnified that priesthood as a witness to the Book of Mormon, as a counselor to the prophet, as one to select... Oh, okay, so he was a counselor to the prophet, but not an apostle. As one to select the 12 apostles and to instruct them, as a missionary in moving the church across the frontiers of the Western territories, and as a teacher and speaker whose voice rang with great and persuasive power. But he turned, he found fault, he complained, his calling shrank, he diminished his priesthood, he distanced himself from those in authority in the church. Gone was the voice of persuasion. Gone was the power of the priesthood of God, which he once held and magnified. For 11 years he walked almost alone, without friends. He walked in poverty and in sickness. Then, in the fall of 1848, he and his family made their way to Council Bluffs and found themselves again among many of the saints who at the time were moving to the west. At a conference held in Canesville on the 24th of October, 1848, he stood and said, "Friends and brethren, my name is Cowdery, Oliver Cowdery. I wrote with my own pen the entire Book of Mormon, save a few pages, as it fell from the lips of the prophet Joseph Smith, and he translated it by the power and gift of God. Brethren, for a number of years I have been separated from you. I now desire to come back. I wish to come humble and be one in your midst. I seek no station. I only wish to be identified with you. I am out of the church, but I wish to become a member. I wish to come in at the door. I know the door. I have not come here to seek precedence. I come humbly and throw myself upon the decision of the body, knowing as I do that its decisions are right." He was accepted. He was baptized again. He longed to gather with the saints in the valleys of the mountains, but he died March 3rd, 1850, without ever realizing that dream. His is one of the most touching, pathetic stories in the history of this great work. So long as he magnified his calling, he was magnified. When he diminished that calling, he shrank to oblivion and poverty. He came back, but he never regained his previous stature. He never regained the incomparable promise given by the Lord that conditioned upon his faithfulness. He should have glory and be given strength such as is not known among men. End quote. So that's President Gordon B. Hinckley, Magnify Your Calling, April 8, 1989 General Conference. So this is hard because Satan is going to try and keep us down no matter what. It doesn't matter the avenue that he will try and keep us down. But we as women, this is our calling. To open our mouth and declare the gospel of Jesus Christ. And we can't let Satan's tricks on our husbands to stop us from doing that. Yes, our husbands have made choices that affect us. But now we can make a choice. And we can seek that healing, and we can seek to continue to testify of Christ. How has Christ helped you? How has he showed up for you? Instead of talking about all the ways that Satan tricks us and tortures us, we can talk, those triggers can turn into triumphs for us. And instead of talking about how bad we feel and how sad we are, we can talk about the joy that Christ brings into our lives, regardless of what is happening in our lives. That we can still experience joy after betrayal, that we can still experience joy in our families, that we are not going to let Satan take our families away from us just because of what Satan has done. That we are going to work and we're going to fight and we're going to do these things that are hard, and we're going to continue to move the gospel forward with Christ, because we can do all things through him. Anyways, I love that. And I don't want that same thing to happen to me. I don't want to be in my closet anymore. I don't want to be in like I don't want to just be there and suffering and hurting and in pain. That is not the place that I want to be. And I want that strength that he talks about that is not known among men or women. That's the kind of strength that I want. And so that's what I'm going to try and do. I'm going to try and move past those, the torture, move past the torture, get that extra load to get me unstuck from where I am, and serve God through serving others. I hope that you join me and that you don't take offense, because being offended is not of God. Okay, and verse 13, require not miracles, except I shall command you, except casting out devils, healing the sick, and against poisonous serpents, and against deadly poisons. And these things ye shall do, except it be required of you by them who desire it, that the scriptures might be fulfilled, for ye shall do according to that which is written. Hi, miss. Okay, I have to go make some oatmeal for this little miss, and I'll be right back. It'll just be a blip. Okay, here we go. We're on verse 15. And in whatsoever place ye shall enter, and they receive you not in my name, ye shall leave a cursing instead of a blessing, by casting off the dust of your feet against them, as a testimony, and cleansing your feet by the wayside. Okay. I think we need to talk about that just a little bit. Like, you can't just do that to like everybody, okay? It's like for drastic measures. Anyways, okay, verse 16. And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall lay their hands upon you by violence, hold on, wait. Where is it? By violence ye shall command to be smitten in my name, and behold, I will smite them according to your words in mine own due time. I feel like teenagers need that one, right? Huh? Okay, so it's true. I think all teens need that one. It shall come to pass that whosoever lay their hands upon you by violence, if you're going to get beat up for the Lord, then ye shall command to be smitten in my name. So you can command the Lord you can command that guy be smitten in the Lord's name. And the Lord will smite him. Isn't that awesome? I just think it's amazing. But again, like, these were the persecutions that they were having back in the day. Not like those people were not all smitten. And so I'm like, I wonder if this is now the Lord telling them, like, hey, remember, if people are getting to you by violence, you can command that they shall be smitten. Okay, verse 17, and whosoever shall go to law with thee shall be cursed by the law. Okay, this is not a video sponsored by my friends Dexter Law, but yes, right there, the Lord is the ultimate lawyer for you and will show up for you and help you, which I love. And then verse 18, and thou shalt take no purse nor scrip, neither staves, neither two coats, for the church shall give unto thee in the very hour what thou needest for food and for raiment and for shoes and for money and for scrip. For thou art called to prune my vineyard with a mighty pruning, yea, even for the last time, yea, and also all those whom thou hast ordained, and they shall do even according to this pattern. Amen. Okay, so everyone is called to do this. It says, and also all those whom thou hast ordained, right? And who has he ordained? Like all the peeps. Okay, so then it says, Elder James E. Talmage gave some clarification on what it means to cast off the dust of your feet, because we know that we like that. Somehow we think it's like an amazing thing that you're allowed to do. So it says, quote, to ceremonially shake the dust from one's feet as a testimony against another was understood by the Jews to symbolize a cessation of fellowship and a renunciation of all responsibility for consequences that might follow. It became an ordinance of accusation and a testimony by the Lord's instructions to his apostles as cited in the text. In the current dispensation, the Lord has similarly directed his authorized servants to so testify against those who willfully and maliciously oppose the truth when authoritatively presented. The responsibility of testifying before the Lord by this accusing symbol is so great that the means may be employed only under unusual and extreme conditions, as the Spirit of the Lord may direct, end quote. Yeah, like you can't just be dusting your feet off of Fulanita de Tal's house because she spoke bad about you behind your back. Although, don't you know, I wish I coulda. James E. Talmage, Jesus the Christ. Actually, not really. I'm not a malicious person anyway. But, right? Like you gotta be, it's gotta be serious, intense, and like the right people at the wrong time for them. But, you know. Anyway, okay, so that is where we're at with section 24. And then we're gonna, let me just finish reading this little part right here from Reditosis. It says, these two young men had much to learn, but they would be guided and directed by the Lord in so doing. For thou art called to prune my vineyard. And clearly the lives of these two men had changed. They were called to the full-time work of the Lord, and their wives and their families are now a part of this great work as well. So there you have it. Now we're going to read the Read It, Live It, and then we will be done. Verse 24. Or chapter 20, section 24. Section. Okay. Let's try. Okay, so here there's two of them. Actually, I think there might be three, but we're gonna do this one. It says sections 24 to 26 were given to the saints to strengthen, encourage, and instruct them. As you read these sections, look for words of strength and encouragement and mark them. Ooh, I love that. I always like marking scriptures. It's hard when you're like walking, but okay, and then this one. It's purple and pink. We wonder how Joseph felt when the Lord told him to be patient in afflictions, for he would have many. We also wonder how he felt when the Lord promised, I am with thee even unto the end of thy days. Take heart. Aww. The Lord is always with us to the end of our days, because we need him, and he knows we need him, and he's with us regardless if we want him to be with us. That's the funny thing too about that, is that he's always with us. You know, it's like your parents. Like when you're a teenager and you talk back to your parents and you're like, I hate you. Well, you would think that your parent would immediately be like, yeah, well, I hate you too, you know, but like as a parent, you just feel hurt. But you deeply, like the reason why you feel hurt is because you deeply love your children. And so when you get that kind of attitude back at you, you're just like, oh, something is wrong with my teen. I need to help him more. So it's not even, and it's like, you just still help, because what are you going to do? Like, you still love this child of yours, even though they're a stinker, and now you try to go out of your way to love them more. So when you don't want Christ to help you, he's going to try and help you even more. So recognize those things. So the Lord reminded Joseph that there would be those who would receive him and his words, and those who would not. And so for those for those who would, he was to leave a blessing. Wherever you go today, leave a blessing. Oh, I love that. Okay. All right. Until section 25, stay strong, warrior.